to Blue Sky episode 2. I'm Adeel.
Started one more time because I was laughing.
Hello and welcome to Blue Sky episode 2. I'm Adeel.
And I'm Jono.
And we'll be your host today. And hopefully every episode that you tune into.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes.
Easily replaceable.
And we'll have some special guests. Maybe we'll get, guests to replace us.
Yeah.
Because we'll be too busy doing other things,
Exactly.
Passive income, baby.
It's like when your cells regenerate,
Yes. Are we talking about clones?
Yeah, or like if every couple of years our entire body's cells regenerate, are we the same person we were a few years ago, or are we a whole new person?
Shit.
That's
Wow.
A lot of heavy questions.
I'd like that though.
Yeah, it's good.
So what is Blue Sky Podcast? Because this is episode 2, we're going to do a little bit of a quick summary. What it is basically me and Jono get together. We put a bunch of prompts in a bowl. I write 5 prompts. He writes 5 prompts. And when I say prompts, what I mean is genres, movie genres. So it could be anything from rom-com to like zombie apocalypse. So it can be like as broad as that. So we both write prompts into a bowl. I feel like I've said prompts way too many times, but we put them in a bowl. Then one of us picks the genre of the film. I didn't say prompt, but wait a minute, I just did. And then we basically write a short film script. We said we're going to try to hit about 5 pages maximum.
3 to 5 was our goal. That seems reasonable and not too much work.
Yeah. Because I think exactly. It's a short film, and I think we realized the last time we did this that it kind of pushes us to, in a weird way, limiting us to 5 pages pushes our creativity to how much can we do in 5 pages. So we kind of like that a lot. So we're gonna try it again, and again, sorry, Blue Sky. You know what? We'll explain Blue Sky when we get to it.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Okay. Is there anything else, or should we just go pick a prompt?
No, I think last week was really fun, and hopefully we can crack through another one. So this could always fall on its face at any moment. So I'm very excited.
But isn't that the
for that
fun
potential?
Of it?
Exactly. We're stepping out into the darkness, and we're gonna see what happens.
The prompt.
Here comes the coveted bowl.
Yes.
Of podcast fate.
Anyone watching the video, it's a really nice. What kind of green is this? What would you say?
I would say that's a Chargrel mint green.
Huh?
Yeah, I had a table or like a couch or something that was that color, and it was like Chargrel mint or something. Oh, it matches the couch.
I didn't even. Wow, that's not even why I bought it.
And that clinking sound is Adeel smacking the mic with the bowl. Just so you know.
Yeah. I'm still learning how to be on a mic.
I'm going to reach in without looking.
And
hopefully I don't get one of mine. I don't want to this time because one of mine was last time. This doesn't feel like one of mine. Okay.
And the genre for this week.
Oh, it was literally a twofold. As I unfolded it, it said action. And then I unfolded it more and it said comedy. So action comedy is the topic today.
All right.
Wonderful. That's fun.
Yeah, it'll give us. I think it gives us a lot of room. What are some of your favorite action comedies, Jono?
Yeah, I'm just trying to go through them right now. I think first, immediately, I think of Edgar Wright. I think of like Scott Pilgrim and the Cornetto or whatever fucking trilogy
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World and
so good, man.
Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, where. Like the world, again, kind of like in that slapstick realm where there's crazy shit happening in the world and the fights are kind of goofy and the characters are kind of goofy, but like the action is really good and well executed, and there's a good tone to it that breaks the tension as much as it builds it.
I like that. It's great. No, it's a good one. First of all, Scott Pilgrim, I think is Edgar Wright's. For me, it's my favorite Edgar Wright film. Right?
I don't want to say 100% this episode, because I said it so many times in the last one, if I recall correctly. But 100%. I love that movie. I love that it's a love letter to Toronto. I love that it's very close to the book. I don't know if you've read the book.
No, but I heard amazing. A podcast talking about it, and they were really dissecting it.
It's just beautiful and fun and cute, and they really captured it with that.
Dude, it's just so I once in a while will hang out with my nephews and nieces. Like we'll do like a uncle day, and they're like young. They're like 15 and below. So I try to get them into movies that I like because I'm like, cinema was better when I was 15. that bullshit.
Yeah.
And I remember showing them Scott Pilgrim, and we all were just like from start to finish. There's not a moment where you're bored.
No.
There's not a frame where it's not like. That's what I love about that film. Very few films, and you don't have. It depends on the topic, but you don't have to do this. But that film did this thing where every frame is entertaining. Every moment, every scene. There's no like, these 10 minutes are kind of dragging on. It's just nonstop fun.
For sure. And like it really stays faithful. Like there's some divergences from the comic, I'm sure, that true heads would pick up on. I'm not lopping myself into that group. I read the book a while ago, but it does kind of play out like a comic book, you know, where every panel is this sort of very iconic image.
Yeah.
And like it would be really cool actually to see how they applied that. Like, did they just board it right from the book, or did they do their whole new boards? But there are a lot of frames that are the same, and like the way that the like if it's like no, it like leaves one scene and enters the other, and like the lighting effects and just the sort of magical realism of it all. Oh God. And yeah, the fucking performances. It's just I can't.
Kieran Culkin, I fucking love that movie.
He's amazing.
The Roommate. It's so good.
He's amazing.
He's so good. There's a. Well, I was listening to the podcast about the film, because it's one of my favorites. But apparently the writer was very much involved in the script writing. So it's not like he just took the graphic novel Edgar Wright and rewrote it. So the writer was very much involved, and he wrote it with Edgar Wright for the screenplay. Yeah, Brian Lee
O'Malley. Yeah.
So he wrote it, and then it's based on something with his wife. Like there's a joke about it, like how she dated like someone, and that's where the idea came from. But yeah, it's cool because he was involved, and I like that. Like Edgar Wright wasn't like, oh, give me I'm gonna get the rights to this and just make my own film.
Yeah.
And also apparently, so there's 7 books or some amount of books, and the movie is all of them together.
Yeah.
Like each X had his own book, and they made it. So that's pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
To take 7 books or however many books and just put them into one, that's crazy.
And distill it like that, you know? So what are some other ones? Because I feel like we could talk about this movie forever, but
well, I was gonna say it's funny. I went straight to like Rush Hour.
Oh yeah.
Because I like what you said. It's not just like what makes action comedies great is there's action films, thrillers, and action films. Like Inception has great action, gun scenes, and all this. But it's like I love like when they take that level of quality of action. Like in Rush Hour, there's some great action scenes.
Oh my God.
But then there's comedy. So it's not like, because we're a comedy film, we're not going to take the action seriously. The best action comedies are the ones where they take the action super seriously, so that like the contrast of him like fighting, and you're like entertained. You're like watching this like one shot of this person kick someone's ass, and then cuts to like a funny moment or like a punchline, and you're like laughing. So that's like the ultimate, you know? So yeah, Rush Hour.
I was just fixing the little mic cord.
I gotta keep talking.
I want to piggyback on that. When I immediately forgot what I was piggybacking on, but so Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, like,
so good.
You fall in love with them because of the like just their cultural clash or whatever, which is like a super huge cliche, but you know there is a lot of.
But
there's a lot of human nature in there, and there's a lot of goofiness in there. So like you really get on their side because you see them struggle with each other. You kind of love them individually and really want what's best for them as it pertains to their being a unit. And then when the action scenes happen, they're so visceral and immediate and real, and you're like, holy shit, like this isn't funny right now, and you get really, really invested in the action.
And that's the thing with action comedies. If they do it well, sometimes it can be cheesy, but they put comedy into the action scene. So like where Jackie Chan's fighting, and then like and because he's very like does stunts, he does his own stunts, so he puts a little humor in them where like he'll jump over a couch and he'll land on something and kind of be, ooh, that hurt my back.
Yeah.
And then he'll get up, and then a guy will be pointing a gun at him, and then he'll slap the gun out of his hand, and then him and that villain will have this awkward moment of like, what now? Like it's this punchline in the action scene.
Yeah.
But you're down for it because again, like if they do it well, it's like not just like slapstick funny, it's actually like character driven funny. So Chris Tucker not being good at martial arts, but Jack Chan is, they put that into the scene.
Yeah, exactly. And like Chris Tucker just kind of flailing around, or like Jackie Chan, I don't know if this is actually in the movie, but it feels like it would be like he's hanging on something and someone's like smacking his fingers with a broomstick and he's like, ooh, and then grabs it with the other hand.
Yeah.
You know?
And then Chris Tucker somehow comes in and makes it worse by like stepping on his hand, and like it's like again because he's like their camaraderie is like trying to figure each other out in the first one, for example, so they kind of get in each other's way. during the action scene. So yeah, I do like that. I do like, and I'm looking at this list, man. There's so many good ones. There is, The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe.
Oh yeah,
There is,
I started watching that and I never finished it.
it's good. I like Shane
Yeah.
Black. He's a good director. I like him. There's The Gentleman. Guy Ritchie's a great example too.
The Gentleman, yeah, Guy Ritchie for sure. But though Guy Ritchie's a little more like
Crime comedy instead of
it's-
action comedy.
Yeah, and just like seedy dudes in
Mm.
in like a bluey green
Yeah.
color grade, you know?
Right. That's right.
Yeah, dogs. Yeah, I like fucking dogs.
Yeah. And
so
then
I just want to
yeah.
call out this note here. I just wrote on the board here, protagonist, arrow, gets in their own way.
yeah. Or I mean, here's the thing: I put action comedy. I didn't put buddy comedy, but gets in partner's way.
Right.
Because it's another good one. It's in partners, and it's such a like Hollywood action comedy, buddy comedy, whatever you want to call it. Have you ever seen This Means War?
No.
Chris Pine and Tom Hardy, and they
I've
both fall in
never-
love with Reese Witherspoon.
No, I've
That
never
to me
heard
is
about it.
the formula is so like it's like again you watch and you're like okay I know exactly what I'm getting into so the formula to it, but it's fun and you're like just down for the ride. It's not like friggin' again like oh my god it needs to get an award, but you're just enjoying it because it's great action scenes, like there's spies in it.
Yeah.
So they're having these great gun scenes, but then it's mixed with this like they both like the same girl,
Yeah.
So and then again they kind of try to up on each other.
Yeah.
So that's always fun.
And then, more recently, like the Marvel movies could be considered action comedies.
Yeah, I
but
was thinking that.
I don't think they really crossed over into that territory until Taika got on the scene and did Ragnarok.
I don't know, man. People give him credit, and I get it. He killed Ragnarok, but before that, Avengers 1 was funny. Like, there were scenes where I was really laughing. And then even Iron Man, like, Downey Jr. from Iron Man 1 was funny.
Sure.
Like, there were scenes where he was just... Jon Favreau is a good comedic director as well. So, I don't know. I feel like Iron Man 1 had it. It's just when Ragnarok came, seeing Thor do it was such a... Oh, now they've accepted comedy. Because now every character is funny. Or whatever, Like, then...
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying, but I think what Taika Waititi did was bring a youthfulness or like a childish sort of playfulness to it all. Like all his movies, I just feel like are him and his imaginary childhood friends having conversations.
Fair,
and like,
fair.
Doing really goofy things, but it's in it for the sake of being adorable.
Because I'm searching, what I think was the first stamp of action comedy? Like, again, I think Iron Man 1 works, Spider-Man works, they're all action comedies, but the really big splash for me was Guardians.
Yeah.
That was
sure.
like, I found it hilarious
Sure, yeah.
with the characters and then the action, and that was like James Gunn bringing that in for me.
Yeah, I could get behind that. Though Guardians, I just like...
Like, Guardians crawled so that Ragnarok could run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
But,
Ragnarok was like, fuck it, comedy all the way,
Yeah, I was just gonna take a dig at Guardians and being like, they're just one note. They found a nice chord and are just playing that chord over and over again. But I saw the other Thor movie after Ragnarok,
And it's same note.
It's the same note, but
Yeah.
played kind of shitty. It's played by people who like.
Yeah. I didn't watch it, man. I couldn't get past the first 10 minutes of Love and Thunder, and I was excited, dude. Like Taika and him back, and all this. Especially after Jojo Rabbit, so he's coming back to the Marvel world. It's gonna be so cool, and I don't know. It just seemed so like bland, and it felt too kiddish.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I'm with you. Exactly. It felt like a vessel to sell toys for sure,
Exactly.
which a lot of shit is now. And I'm glad we made a joke about it last week. I want to talk about Free Guy because Taika.
Oh, yeah, that came up too,
Because
yeah.
Taika is in that movie. But I want to ask you a question that's been nibbling at my brainstem for a little bit. Do you think Bad Boys is an action comedy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a buddy cop comedy,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's an action comedy. No,
It's an action comedy for sure, but like maybe even more sort of drama leaning than the Guy Ritchie stuff. Like it wants to take itself seriously. Like these dudes are actual badasses. There's not a lot of goofiness to them. I guess Martin Lawrence like is kind of that
well,
pathos character, but
that's what I'm trying to find out. Like, what do you mean that in terms of why do you consider that it might not be action comedy, or what made you think that I don't know that it's different?
because that like, and I mean I'm splitting hairs, but like if that's an action comedy, then like what isn't? You
Inception
know?
isn't.
Inception, but is that an action movie?
I think
that's
I think
a straight up genre. Or
what's the
Sorry,
genre?
no, excuse me, a straight up drama.
I don't know. Well, I used to think that, but then I remember Nolan talking about how that was his James Bond because there's so many like remember the opening scene? He's like doing espionage work and he's killing people and that and then he has to escape because they find out that he's like in his dream or whatever. And DiCaprio's remember that scene in the beginning where the water kind of explodes in that.
I haven't seen it in so long. I'm sorry.
Well, the ending. Remember the ending? They're in like this winter world, and they're like snowboarding and killing people.
Right. Yes.
Like if you look it up, it's considered action sci-fi.
Okay.
So I think that's an action movie. Inception. I don't know why that's what I'm thinking of though, because there's so many other examples. But have you ever seen The Rock?
Yes.
Is that action comedy? You think, or
no?
Right?
No. But also, like, I was a kid when I saw it, like when it came out, so I was just like, oh, I didn't really understand tone or anything. I was just like, these guys are badass, and they have those weird beads, and they can't let the beads hit the ground, or everyone's gonna die for some reason.
But that's a good question. How about? Wow, I fully forgot that was the whole thing in that. Yeah, that was like
some chemical warfare shit.
Oh man, that was a good movie, dude. Was that Michael Bay? I think it was.
Good question.
It was.
Nice.
That was when he was like, and that was his like A game. The Rock. He had a couple that were just so.
Bad Boys 1 and 2 were awesome.
Oh right, it was Michael Bay. I forgot.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Island with Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson?
No, is that That's not a Scorsese.
No, Michael Bay.
The Island. What's?
Oh, you're thinking of Shutter Island.
Wait. Yeah. No.
The Island is great with Michael Bay.
I don't even know if I know that.
Yeah, that was like my childhood. But Con Air, like Nicolas Cage films like that, I used to watch a lot. Like my brother used to love Nicolas Cage, so we watched like Con Air, The Rock, Snake Eyes, Face Off. Like, I was gonna say because you made me think. That's a really good point. Bad Boys, I think fully action comedy.
Yeah.
But what makes it an action comedy? Like, what's the roots of an action comedy that if you take this out, it's not an action comedy?
Right. An unlikely relationship or an unlikely hero? Is it about the hero kind of butting up against the tropes of action or the expectations of action,
No, that's a great point. Unlikely hero, right? As opposed to like the Bad Boys, they're cops. Of course they're. Well, no, I totally just sullied our own point because that's an action comedy.
But they're not unlikely heroes, but they're an unlikely pairing of heroes.
Right.
And that unlikely pairing,
like Lethal Weapon.
Like exactly, Lethal Weapon. You got fucking Mel Gibson just going fucking full hog on everything, and Danny Glover just always perpetually 3 days away from retiring.
Perpetually. That's a good point. I think that is. It's always something.
Lethal Weapon 1 is fucking amazing. Like that movie is incredible.
You know what I'm trying to do right now? Is I'm trying to figure, because here's the thing. So, again, I'll use Inception because I don't know why it's in my head right now. Inception is an action sci-fi. There's conflict in it that's about him trying to get back home, and this conflict to fulfill this crime job, or like this big payday for them to get back home or whatever, right? That's their conflict. They have to incept this guy's dream and plan something so they can kind of get paid, and then he can, and also get like exonerated so he can get back home to his kids. Okay. That's Inception's like kind of conflict and whatever. Bad Boys, the conflict is they have like a witness to a murder and they have to protect her. Right. So in those ways, if you take out like humor completely, they're like both serious films, right? In Inception, there is humor. There's like scenes where he goes, oh, if we want to get into his drink or like get him to fall asleep, we need to kind of buy all the tickets for this upper cabin in the plane, or buy this plane or whatever. And I can't remember the guy's name, the guy from Last Samurai, the actor. He goes, oh, I bought the entire airline because he's so rich. Like he had a Bruce Wayne Batman moment, right? And you laugh. Like I remember in the audience, you're like laughing. You're like, oh, that's kind of fucking funny. Like he's so rich that he just kind of was like on a whim was like, I just bought the entire airline to make sure our heist works, right?
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Yeah.
But what makes it not I'm trying to figure out what is it? Is it something to do with story, or is it just more jokes per minute?
Yeah, I mean, then there was the part in Inception when French Stewart would get the messages from the big giant head in space. Oh, sorry, that's Third Rock from the Sun. Wrong. Joseph Gordon-Levitt thing. Sorry.
Yeah, because they were so close together, those two things. And then he's like addicted to porn in it. Oh, that's a different Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Didn't he go on a bunch of dates with Zooey Deschanel?
Nope, different Joseph Gordon-Levitt film.
Okay.
Inception.
Starring
Zooey Deschanel and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yeah, I don't know.
But I that's a tough question to ask because, yeah, like it without being a fucking heavily seasoned action comedy screenwriter, it's hard to know what those things are. But I do think like it's two, like Bad Boys is two like badass cops in LA, and there's this witness protection thing. It like, yeah, when I'm breaking it down, I don't think anything is funny. It's just Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are just like naturally funny guys.
Bad Boys is action comedy. I just want to make sure because we just declared it was. Yeah, of course it is. It says here it is.
I had that soundtrack. I used to blast it all the time and just like dun 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 dun.
Oh, that dude, Michael Bay had some great fucking music. Even The Rock has, I can't remember The Rock's thing right now, but it had a very.
The Rock was like a dun 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 dun, right?
Yeah, and then what was Transformers?
It was something like dun 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 dun.
But I like how he switched it up with Pain and Gain.
Yeah, which was dun 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 dun, like it went down.
Yeah. That's what it was. No, I think he worked with Hans Zimmer in the beginning. That's why Michael Bay.
Right,
I'm pretty sure sense. The Rock movie soundtrack or music. Hans Zimmer. That's crazy.
So it's kind of interesting that, like, coming into this after doing a slapstick script, because same thing, like the people are taking the world seriously and the rules of the world have real but then it's like less, the stakes aren't just silly, they're
like again, hopefully we release this in order, this podcast, but if the slapstick one was the one we did last, in that it was about like he wants to be an actor known seriously, and that's kind of funny, but it's about him as a performer and wants the world to take him seriously. In an action comedy, it'd be more like he wants to make this show, but on the side, he's an assassin that kills people, like Barry, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Which, like, I don't even know. Barry, like,
I think it's an action comedy.
It kind of fits in there.
Dude, Barry's action scenes are so fucking well done. I love how seriously they take that action in that film.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. He's terrifying. He's fucking terrifying.
Like, and there's like that one raid they do on this like big like warehouse, and the gun scenes and all that. It's like you're all of a sudden watching a completely different show, and then cuts back to comedy. That's that. So if whatever we write today, I would like to see if we can do that, where of course we're not filming it, but if we can really, I think it's important, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I've kind of thought of this, where an action comedy, at least the people are like, there's justifiable reason to why they're good at action. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Either cops or like assassin
or a sleeper agent or something.
Yeah. And then there'll be and my favorite kinds, and let me know how you feel about this for our story today, maybe, is like there's one guy who's really good at it and one guy who's like, I don't know what side of the gun do I shoot from?
It's like Hitchhiker's Guide that I've been reading forever. Like Arthur Dent is like just kind of bumbling through this sci-fi epic, and like, I don't know, like I'm just a guy who was at the pub before the world exploded.
I do love seeing those, where it's like, and then by the end of it though, the non-action hero learns action and does some cool shit by the final scene.
Would you think the Kingsman series?
Yes, I love the Kingsman.
And that's
series.
The like
that's
the protege kind of thing, and like it does that sort of Star Wars-esque like hero's journey, like some chuddy kid in the orphan who gets taken under the wing of some
it's very Star Wars person. But it was really well done, and the comedy was pretty good in that too.
I remember absolutely loving those movies.
I feel like it's funny. I was hoping we'd get to an understanding of what the difference is, but maybe when we write this right now, we'll get to an understanding, because it just like there is a difference, but I just was hoping it was more than just, one is serious and one's funny. That's the big difference between action and action comedy.
But is that line in something like in a comedy, like if someone's getting stabbed, in an action, just a straight up action drama or whatever, if someone's getting stabbed, they're like getting stabbed and it hurts, but if they're doing it in an action comedy, they're getting stabbed and something funny happens, you know?
But that's the thing, though. They take it seriously. We said the action, right?
Because they take the action seriously, but the reaction to the action.
Well, I read one thing, which again I don't think it's true, but it kind of goes with what you're saying, where it's like, action comedy films are those with like Fast and Furious action, yet being mostly lighthearted, rarely having death or serious injury. But then I'm like, that's not true because I've seen death in rush hour. People die, but
Rarely
yes.
in serious injury. So like we do see Jackie Chan get his ass kicked.
But no, like, oh, my hand got cut off, or like I have a bullet wound and it's so fresh.
Yeah, or serious. Rarely death or serious injury is a good one to have here.
Yeah.
But I think again, like it's a brutal, serious, harsh world, and the way the character navigates it brings the comedy. Because like it's not like the bad guys are like coming out like goofy and stupid. They may be made to look like that later, but it's through the actions of the character that we find that comedy. It's like the guy in Memento is like super serious, like Guy Pearce or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like super fucking serious and it's really dark. But if he just was kind of a quirky guy and like made questionable choices, that would make that whole movie something completely different.
Like I just searched up Die Hard. I'm like, people do find it funny. I think it's kind of funny too.
I think it's hilarious, and
but
it's like
not an action comedy.
It's just action.
Because if you think about it, like it's pretty dark. You know what I mean? Like
he
has to get out of here.
And there's a lot of death and injury in that movie.
And, like they show the deaths.
Right, but you know the comedy and the character of Bruce Willis, I think, is just the tension release.
Yeah.
It's not
Mr.
like
Cheeky.
the overarching thing. Yeah.
He's not Mr. Silly. He's Mr. Cheeky. Like
yeah.
Is that what you're thinking? Well, this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Think John McClane jokes during sex? Like any serious endeavor, he's just gonna throw in a
he's
little
like a cheeky
thing,
fucker everywhere. Yeah, he's like fucking, and he's like
now I got a condom.
That's really funny. He has a condom strapped to the back of his thing. Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah.
He just pulls the condom out.
This is the blue sky part.
Okay. So
What's Blue Sky, John?
now we will do the old blue sky treatment to this bad boy. And blue sky is part of many people's writing process that you just throw whatever you want at the board. If it sticks, great. If it doesn't, great. We don't limit ourselves with budget or ideas or constraints. We're just going to throw everything at the wall and then hopefully whittle it down to a cool story for you guys.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, brainstorming.
in brainstorming, that's the actual thesaurical definition.
Why do they call it brainstorming? I feel there must be some cool or weird thing.
Yeah, well, I guess because your brain is just like working overtime. But if that's the case, then I'm brainstorming 24/7.
Brainstorming.
Anxiety.
How's that not a supervillain's name?
Brainstorm?
Brainstorm.
Well,
maybe in our action comedy.
should we write in?
Brainstorm? I love that.
Okay, I'm gonna write some characters down here.
What's your brain plus two?
Brainstorm. and we could also make jokes like with the grounded performance of the leads. I feel like we're edging toward buddy comedy.
I like that.
Yeah, we could get a lot of stuff out of that. But Brainstorm, we could write a joke in there about how stupid of a name that is. Like really Brainstorm, but like he's actually a fucked up crazy villain.
Yeah. I mean, we could even do the unlikely pairing is that the protagonist has to team up with Brainstorm, the villain, to defeat a bigger villain.
Okay.
That's weird.
Yeah, so maybe we don't need to have 2v1. It's like 1v1 and then they have to join forces.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to start with like the agent.
It's like
meeting.
Megamind. Have you ever seen Megamind?
No, never heard of that.
Will Ferrell? No.
Megamind.
Will Ferrell. Oh, it's a cartoon.
Oh, no.
Brad Pitt, Will Ferrell, Jonah Hill.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's like a superhero cartoon?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's like Incredibles, but like not as good, but it's still pretty good.
Oh, but it's not like Sausage Party or whatever that like.
No.
Okay.
It's like Incredibles.
It takes
more.
itself seriously. Okay.
Yeah, because it's like about this. It's a really cool story. It's about like Megamind is Will Ferrell, and it starts from his point of view, like the villain, and how he's always wanted to be the biggest villain. So it's like it's a super villain's journey as opposed to most movies, which are the superhero's journey. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And that gave me an idea. Like, what if this isn't about like good versus evil necessarily? Like Brainstorm is a bad guy, but we might be encroaching on last week's stuff. But like he just really believes he's a good guy, you know?
Oh,
I guess most villains
Wreck-It
do.
Ralph.
Like, yeah, I never saw Wreck-It Ralph.
Do you don't watch Pixar?
I do and I don't.
So good. Wreck-It Ralph is literally about.
I love John C. Reilly.
Yeah, he's the. I was like, yeah. I don't know why I thought of John Cena in my head right now.
He's kind of cool too.
Yeah. Do you know what Wreck-It Ralph is about? Because it's freaking brilliant. It's kind of like what you're basically saying right now, which he's imagine being a villain in a video game.
Right.
Like you're Donkey Kong in the Mario Kart game.
And you're like,
In the Mario game, sorry, in the original one.
Yeah.
Which is I think what they base it off to.
Yeah.
But he's the villain. But then as soon as the game powers down, and he's like, and he like the game always ends with like him losing and the guy getting the princess or whatever. But Donkey Kong or Ralph is like, I just want to be taken like as a good guy once, and it's like his old journey. And then he goes to even like a bad guy AA group where it's like all the bad guys from famous games are sitting around. It's a great fucking film, bro. You gotta watch it, man.
Then I rescind my pitch there because it seems a little bit like
Wreck-It Ralph.
We would just dance. We would just be avoiding Wreck-It Ralph stuff.
That's great that you thought like that's you haven't even seen Wreck-It Ralph and you thought of that. That's pretty good.
That's why they pay me the medium bucks.
Because you think of stuff that's already out there, but I haven't seen.
I just psychically understand Wreck-It Ralph.
Skill.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to the resume.
I like unlikely pairings.
Unlikely pairings, but then like, should we start with? I feel like cops are a little too easy, and like detectives and shit. Like,
I agree.
What's a more interesting thing, like climate activists, or like?
I had this idea way back, and maybe it doesn't work, but it was like this idea of, and the film's called like My Girlfriend's Ex-Boyfriend, and it's basically about this. So this guy,
ex-in-law.
Basically, this guy, he's like give me someone else, but not Jay Baruchel, like your average Joe.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, but okay, like 500 Days of Summer. That's great, actually. The 500 Days Summer, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? And he's in love with this girl, and it could be, give me someone.
Zoe Deschanel.
Of course. It's Zoe Deschanel. And he has 500 days. No. So they're dating.
Open on the countdown. 500 days.
They're dating. And this is a bit Scott Pilgrim, but a bit different. So they're dating, and she has this one ex that she brings up, but you don't get to know too much about. And that ex is like Tom Hardy. Like, he's Mr. Badass. And that guy runs in like this undercover ring of like badasses or whatever. Maybe he's a spy. Maybe I didn't think that through what his occupation is. But anyways, on the day of all days, the reason this film gets the story happens is because Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zoe Deschanel are happy. Tom Hardy still loves her, but he stays out of her way. Like, he's a good ex or whatever. And then Zoe Deschanel gets kidnapped or whatever. And now the ex-boyfriend has to help the current boyfriend basically get her back. So it's the story of these two unlikely partners, and it's not about like. And what I liked about it personally was like Tom Hardy's not trying to win her back because he's like, you guys are already dating, but he still cares about her enough that he's like, I'll help you. But then of course, no matter how much he's like, I'm not trying to get her back, he did date her at one point, so there is like this mixed feeling.
Right. I think I blacked out for a sec because that's a real movie, right?
No,
it's not. Okay, good. Okay, I didn't black out.
No, I'm saying that's my idea for a film
because I really like that. But to get it out of the cliche, no shade there.
No, you know what?
You know what? Let's call it. To get out of the boyfriend girlfriend thing, maybe avoid the Scott Pilgrim thing. It went through my head. Stepdad. So like, what if there's like a kid and a stepfather or stepmother or whatever, and they hate each other, and then the actual bloodline parent, like the mom or whatever, gets kidnapped, and then they have to team up with the stepdad.
Interesting.
You know, and they have to go find her, and they fucking hate each other, and like,
but they have to do this
and like, you know, obviously you'd want that arc to kind of wrap around and then be okay with each other at the end, but maybe it's just like a very minimal understanding. But
so sorry, explain it. So
imagine there's it doesn't have to be a son, it could be a daughter or a non-binary child, but a kid, the offspring of mom and the kid are there. Mom's divorced. Dad died or something
and now
tragic.
She's married to a new guy.
And now she's married to a new guy, and he's a piece of shit. But people end up with like shitty step-parents, and I've gone through it. I know tons of friends that do that, and like that's kind of the ultimate, like, ex-boyfriends or whatever are kind of tough, but like when you have to go to Christmas dinner with the person you hate, when you have to like do all the things, and like you don't want to, like, you may raise your concern to your mom, but she's in love and nothing's going to change her mind.
So can I ask though, because I follow along now, the stepfather in this film, in this story, does he have a background that makes him badass to help or no?
I think we would have to discover
Retired
something
cop?
like he would be either a retired cop or whatever, which makes the young character, like the Gen Z guy, fucking hate him because he's a cop, you know? And that is the reason why something happens to mom. Like he solved this case years ago. And then
he's the reason why she got kidnapped.
And maybe some other person that's the same near the same age as our protagonist is like their father got thrown in jail or got death penalty or whatever by this guy, and this is their like supervillain origin story, and now they're executing their supervillain plan in the future, and like they have to fucking do it. And maybe there's like, you know, a scene of kind of realizing that, and then they don't decide to work together, they're forced. Like they're like, what the fuck, man?
Well, maybe
like, I was a cop and this happened. It's like, oh, you would fucking do this to my mom, and then a ninja flies through the window, and then they just have to fight, you know?
Ninja, that's great. But yeah, and it's but maybe because I like also they like in the feature, maybe you do this, maybe not in the short film, but maybe it's like they both there's a scene or an act. The first act is like they try to do it separately first. So the kid goes to this place, gets his ass kicked or whatever, and then they're like, we might as well put our heads together and do this, you know?
Yeah, or like the first, like the kidnapping scene happens, and it's just the mom and the son at home, and the son gets his ass. He tries to fight, and puts up a good fight and shit, and ultimately fails, and then the stepdad comes home.
So here's the thing, I'm trying to poke holes now, so we don't do it later.
Yeah, good.
And I'm trying to think of movies like Rush Hour. I just thought of another one. Fuck, what was it? Bad Boys. In those two films, there's kidnappings, right? No, in the Rush Hour is kidnapping. In the second one, there's like a murder, and then there's a witness. And it's like I'm looking at the formula of like two people getting paired up to help this one other person, right? Is it too real? I'm trying to think if another film does this, and does this take the comedy out? The fact that his mom is kidnapped and his wife is kidnapped, does that make it too dark? Because in my head, I'm like, that's a pretty cool idea, but I see it darker than a comedy. Is it still a comedy? You know what I mean? Like, how can they be making jokes when his wife and his mom is like inches from death?
See, I don't think they're making jokes per se. I'm picking up what you're putting down for sure. I think that's a super valid concern, but like, I don't think they'd be making jokes per se. It's just how they attack and deal with each other is what's funny. They're just naturally.
No, but that's
quippy.
what I'm trying to say though. Like you're totally right about this, and I'm not. I think that we're still in the right ballpark. It's just we have to tweak it a bit because, like what you're saying about this complicated relationship between stepsons or stepdaughters and stepfathers, right, or stepmothers. That relationship is so complicated that if like again his wife, so the stepfather can be a piece of shit, but the fact that he's helping, he loves the wife. That's what we have to show, right?
Yes.
So if he loves the wife and then the stepson, the real son loves the mom, they're not like, we're gonna like do quips at each other while we're trying to save my mom and your wife. I feel like it's almost like too real. While again in Bad Boys, it's this person they don't know, it's a stranger they're helping out. In Rush Hour, Jackie Chan's like, this little girl, like I want to get her back, but there's no like, it's not his niece or daughter, or it kind of pushes you away. Where if it was like Jackie Chan's sister that got kidnapped, I would feel like it's more aggressive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Part of me is like, I want to put I want to make it easier for us to add humor instead of us being like, he says it's funny, and then a part of me is like, well, fuck, that's kind of fucked up. His mom is like kidnapped, and this guy's like, well, Dad, you're a piece of shit, or whatever, while they're trying to save his mom, you know?
Yeah, well, we could also write that in because like this character maybe deals with conflict through humor, you know? Like they're the funny guy. They're like, they never had to come to fists with anyone because they diffuse the situation with humor. So that's just like a defense mechanism, you know?
You know what you do also? Because like, yeah, I was trying to find my own devil's advocate because maybe I was wrong. You know what's I'm kind of wrong with? Have you ever seen? Actually, no, never mind. Have you ever seen Whole Nine Yards? So good, dude. Bruce Willis, Matthew Perry.
No.
It's again with killers, and it's like, it's really funny, but it's really like this guy's an assassin who moves next door to Matthew Perry, which is Bruce Willis, moves next door to him, and this whole thing. But again, a part of me is like, there's like this whole thing about his wife and his mother-in-law, Matthew Perry's, which is comedic, but then they get in trouble. But then again, he hates them. So then you're again not feeling like, oh my God, this is such a tragedy. You're almost like, oh, it's kind of funny that they're getting kind of like kidnapped or whatever because he hates them. I don't know. I feel like we need to humanize either the bad guy is humanized, like he's like a goofy villain that kidnapped the mom, or something. Otherwise, I just think it's too dark to make it a comedy.
Yep. But like, what if he wasn't an ex-cop? What if he used to be Brainstorm? You know?
Yeah, there we go. So it's like his henchman wants to be the next top dog.
Yeah. So in like, there's always a threat of Brainstorm coming out of retirement, so they need to kill him. I also just kind of, as you were talking, and I was definitely listening, and I'm not even making a joke, but like my brain kind of works on two tracks.
No, I feel you.
What if it's like an orphanage or something, and it's like, it's not a stepdad, it's like some superintendent, and they're trying to save like the other orphan that this person is best friends with. You know what I mean?
Oh, see,
and
that's
it becomes that thing,
interesting.
and then it's like a little.
Well, that's interesting.
It's like less familial.
But it's still Bond, but it's not like, and it's just something about it. It's the situation is so interesting.
Yeah, because you could start it like just this nice little scene with like a 15-year-old and an 8-year-old or something, and there's just nice, sibling comforting moment, and then one of them gets taken, and there's a lot to establish there, though. Actually, because familiar relationships are just so simple and.
Yeah, and you're right, but can I throw water over all this?
Yep.
Which might
soak me, baby, slop it up.
Sloppy steaks. Which might kind of, which again, that's part of the fucking process. So you guys see this live, which might null and void everything we've just talked about.
Blue Sky also has rain clouds. Turns out.
Oh snap! I like that. It's a 5-page script.
Yeah. So
it is a short film. I think everything we've talked about so far is very much feature, because, and again, you feel free to tell me that no, we should stick to this, because I do think if it's a short film, it should be done over like it's either like an action comedy, so it's either like one scene that's like them outside the doors of the bad guy, and now there's a comedy moment or whatever, or it's one night, or it's 1 week in this guy's life or whatever, but it's like one thing instead of like two people have to console and become friends, like the father thing. There has to be a reason why she got kidnapped. There has to be then the saving moment. There has to be like all these.
There's a lot of setup. There's a lot of setup. You're right.
So what if it's more about, like it could either be about a heist, and this is just before the heist. The whole short film's about the moment right before the heist, and they're waiting to get picked up to go to the heist, for example. And while they're waiting, their headquarters gets taken over by bad guys or whatever.
Yeah, or like I love the Jules and Vince kind of vibe, just walking through the hallways shooting shit,
interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
But what would make that more of an action comedy? Like, imagine they were having these conversations, like they're just fucking hit people, hitmen, and they're just so seasoned they don't fucking their hearts barely beat. They're just like super low key. And then we go into the scene, and the whole thing, maybe they have this huge conversation, but it's during an action scene. So they're like arguing about something, but like they're just grabbing people's fists and like snapping their arms.
While they're having this conversation about something that's like totally not relevant to the situation.
Yeah. Or it's like, it teases the greater theme, or it kind of tells you why they're doing this. Or unpacks some kind of theme somehow while they're doing it. But then like I think that's the more feasible 5-page thing. But then we still need that beginning, middle, and end. Well, but I think we should earmark that other stuff for a feature idea, because there might be some cool shit to steal from that.
I do like that. You know what would make a short film, like a scene out of a film that acts like that is like, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
You know how there's like that scene where they have this argument and then they try to kill each other? Remember that scene?
Yep.
It's a very like iconic scene, I guess you could call it, because like people, Anyways, that to me is a great short film where it starts with him having dinner and he's a little worried she poisoned him. And then she's like making these like cheeky remarks where he's like, I think she did. And then they go to I'm going to go to the washroom, and she goes to gets her guns. And then he's like gets up and gets his knife.
And it's like cross-cut, and like you can tell they're just
while they're talking, hey sweetie, can you? And he's
so
like putting a knife behind his back and getting armed to fucking fight his wife. That is like a great, like if you take that whole section out of the film, that's a short film. That's action, because there's great action between them two after, and then they make love at the end of it or whatever. But it's like great action and comedy, and it ends with like a third party, I think, throws a bomb into their house, and they're like realize we have to be teamed up now. But that to me is like that's a very clean short film.
Very much so.
And it's along what you're kind of saying too, where it's like conversation and so it's like we do I think need a relationship personally.
Yes.
And it could be unlikely or likely. Like unlikely, wife and husband are likely, but the fact that they're both secret spies is unlikely and kind of funny. So it's like in that realm. And then we need like a day of all days that's happening.
Yeah. Sidebar, I think it was last April Fools where I read a post that said Donald Glover and Maya Erskine.
It's happening.
It's real?
Oh yeah.
No.
Donald Glover's doing a Mr. and Mrs. Smith show. Yeah. The one thing that changed, which let me just confirm
it's
this
an
part.
April Fool's miracle. I thought because I saw the post, like the Variety like thing, and I was like, this is something I'm extremely here for. I love them both so much. And then I never heard anything about it, so I'm like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. It's April Fool's, of course.
Who's
they're not
Maya
doing it.
Erskine? Oh yeah, she's
From Pen
yeah.
15.
Because you know what was supposed to be the original thing, and then she dropped out was Phoebe Wallace-Bridges.
Whoa.
That would have been freaking insane.
Yeah, I like Maya's way more unlikely though. Maya's like such a I would not lop her into that, so I think she'll do really cool.
Oh no,
shit.
for sure. Like I'm all for it no
But
matter
yeah,
what. But
Phoebe-
I just like to see those two creative minds, Donald Glover and Phoebe Wallace-Bridges, would be friggin' insane, dude.
I think they will do something. I think they're buddies. They met.
Yeah, they became. So I think they are. They were like, let's do this to work together. But since it didn't work out, something else will happen.
And thank you for indulging that sidebar. I feel really excited about that not being a joke. So also in these kind of action-y things, there's typically a twist, right? Like the twist is they're both hit people and they discover it or whatever, or maybe there's a new thing. So what if we got this like Jules and Vince kind of scene? They're approaching
And again,
the
for
thing.
people who don't know what you're talking about,
Oh, it's the dudes from Pulp Fiction, Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta.
Like they're
who's
like
in that
the-
movie Grease. If anyone's seen that, it's very
and
obscure.
Samuel L. Jackson's been in every movie since the creation of film.
Yeah.
I like those two as an example because they're like everyone loves quoting that whole cheeseburger scene, and it's such a great scene of like they're going to basically shake down a person and they end up killing people
kill
too and
them.
all that. But ultimately killing them. But
For a fucking light bulb in a briefcase, really, guys? Really?
what's that? There's a term for that, right? Like the Pulp Fiction, that briefcase. There's a word for that in a film. It's like a
Light bulb in a briefcase.
Pulp Fiction briefcase. It's like a what's that thing called? It's like a story. It's a word for it, man. It's like a story device, story device. Like, and it's called a. Come on, man, please.
Oh, I thought-
MacGuffin.
I thought that the device was the word. I was like just digging for a good insult. Like, yeah, okay, great.
A MacGuffin, for those who don't know. So a MacGuffin, which again, if you've seen Pulp Fiction, it's the briefcase of the light bulb. And maybe we put this into our story. A MacGuffin, for those who don't know the definition, is an object that propels the story forward, but realistically has no bearing on the story whatsoever. Examples would be the rug in Big Lebowski,
Okay.
the Heart of the Ocean necklace in Titanic. Oh, so interesting. That is true. And then the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, because no one ever knows what they were getting, but it was just like we're moving the story along, like we're here for this briefcase, and now this briefcase is gonna get. It's like it could
Right.
be diamonds, it could be court documents or whatever, but it's just for the sake of like, oh, like Lord of the Rings would be the opposite. The ring is so important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you need
It's an
that.
anti-MacGuffin.
Yeah, exactly. It actually has a purpose.
But in 500 Days of Summer, Zoe Deschanel is the MacGuffin, right? Because it's really about this one guy coming to terms with himself on his own, no?
That's a
I'm
really
I'm
no,
fully making a joke.
I
and it
know,
landed
but
poorly.
I could tell you were like just making shit up, but I think you're kind of right though, aren't you?
Could be. Maybe,
it's really
maybe
about-
I'm not stupid.
Drops mic. So yeah, maybe with MacGuffin. Maybe there's like this one thing they're all.
So,
Oh, I got something.
okay. I have the idea in my head, so it's
No,
fine.
no, say it,
I
say
won't,
it,
I won't
say it,
forget
say
it.
it,
No,
say it.
you're in your
Alright.
flow state, bro.
I was gonna say, what if this whole film is about, and okay, actually, because there's always a reference I can make to anything, but Snatch, where it's like this one thing they're all going for. So I think Snatch was about the diamonds. I think it was the big diamond, the one big one. But in this, it's like you don't know what it is. It's a MacGuffin, right? The film's called MacGuffin. It's about a McMuffin. It's like this golden McMuffin. And of course it won't be that, but I'm just saying that for now. That like you don't know what it looks like, or it's like in this like little cold like this box or briefcase or whatever, and it's somewhere where they have to go into this place and get. but there's like 5 teams. So there's like your 2 dudes who are best friends who want this, and then there's like the mother-daughter, and then there's like it's like almost like Amazing Race, but they're all like bad guys and criminals.
Rat
and they're
Race.
like,
You just made me think of Rat Race. What a fucking good movie.
But
Jesus
imagine
Christ.
so Rat Race, but mixed with like a lot of action.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, but again,
the feature though. Let's put that
fuck
in the.
yeah.
We need to write that.
That'd be fun.
Okay, because that's a lot to explain. I
You're
love
totally
it.
right.
I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
But okay, so what if the MacGuffin is so they're doing the Jules and Vince thing, and they're walking into this warehouse. Maybe there's like the tower or like precinct 36 or whatever shit. I think I quoted that last movie right, but where you kind of have the levels or like Judge Dredd. Where you have the levels.
Redemption.
Yeah. But so maybe there's some stuff like that happens along the way. But maybe the twist is that Jules is actually there to kill Vince. So like they're having this nice conversation, and then they get into this room, and they're like, finally we got into this room, and there's nothing in there. And it's like, well, why are we here? And it's like, because you know too much, or like you do. And then they have to fight. You know?
Yeah.
We start them off as buddies, and then the twist is one's there to kill the other, and then they can have funny banter and throw knives at each other's faces and stuff.
But in the first little bit, when does the movie start with them going into this room?
Yeah, the movie would start with them approaching, bullshitting, fighting, snapping people arm. Like you see, they're a really great team together, and you expect this amazing, epic battle scene, which could happen. Like the ninjas could be coming down from the rafters, but the ultimate goal for one of the guys his job is to kill the other guy because. I don't know, like that.
But and again, you know how we do with the devil's advocate up in here.
Satan is real.
Yeah. It's not even devil's advocate. It's just me popping holes.
It's called Blue Sky. We're riffing.
Yeah. Like to me, that twist works because there's so much buildup in a feature like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Like,
right. You don't really have the time to get invested in their friendship.
Yeah. It's just a thought, but
because otherwise,
I thought
like,
of something.
Yeah, okay.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
This might be good. This might not be, because I'm thinking like again, short film. What I liked what we did last time was we used the device of montage a lot, and that was great, right, for the slapstick one. So we need a device, how to tell the story in 5 minutes, but make it fit full and character and all this. And this is a starting point.
Okay.
It could be 2 things. Oh my gosh, fuck it. The second one might be better actually. But it's someone telling a story.
I was just gonna go there, yeah.
But what the person telling a story is super unlikely. So there's 2 options we have. I just thought of the second one right now, but first one I was thinking was it's like a 14-year-old or 15-year-old telling his summer vacation, and it starts with him in class, and it's very like double entendres where he's like, so we went to Paris, and then cuts to his dad's a spy, and he's on the mission with his dad. And then it cuts back, and we saw the Eiffel Tower, and his dad's hanging off the Eiffel Tower.
And the kid's just like looking at his phone or whatever.
And then eventually in the flashback, he had to help his dad, you know, in one of the scenes of action. But when he's telling the story, it's like he's talking about a Paris vacation, right? So it's like a Paris vacation or whatever. And as he's telling this story, you're going to see the real what happened and compared to what he's saying. So the juxtaposition's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's the comedy.
Yeah.
And then there's like, literally, like you said, you know, it's kind of all right. The sights were fun. And he's like on his phone and his dad's like fighting on Eiffel Tower, like hanging off a thing or whatever, right? The other idea I had, and now it's funny, I thought the second one was better, but maybe as talking to you about the kid one, I think is funnier.
I love that.
The second one was going to be a guy, and I think it still works, a guy with a psychiatrist. And she's like, so have you been, how was your weekend? And he goes,
and it's like,
yeah.
Snap.
Yeah, and he goes, it's getting better. I think I finally told my dad what I think of him. And it cuts to him and his dad fighting over like a dinner or
it's
whatever.
just him shooting his dad in the face 7 times.
Yeah. And how about the love life? Oh, it could be worse. And then it cuts to him and his girlfriend just like together kicking ass or kicking each other's ass or whatever. You know,
or they're like they're both like actiony, so they're just fucking really hard, but like they're like going into the wall like a Daniels music video and like just destroying everything.
Yeah.
I like that. Makes me think of Sopranos, which I still haven't watched.
Oh man,
I know.
So
I'm outing myself.
You haven't seen Mad Men either, right?
I've seen fucking Mad Men, bro.
Bruh.
I was on a podcast a couple years ago that you talk about an episode of TV and then write a song about it, and our episode was Mad Men.
I think you did tell me that.
Yeah, it was super fucking
Dude,
cool.
Mad Men.
Too much TV. Yeah, listen to it. It's good.
I was super late to Mad Men. I just watched it for the first time this year, I think, or last year.
I didn't watch it while it was airing. I think I caught this. The 5th season was airing when I started watching it.
Yeah, no, I watched like 10, 12 years after it was done because I always wanted to, but I always felt it would be too long. And it is like slow and long, but I love it, dude. It's just like it's such a good character work.
Peggy, dude, is one of the greatest characters of all time.
What's the asshole? The funny guy?
Roger Sterling.
I love Sterling.
I don't know his real name, but he's good.
He's a great actor. Though,
Like that's kind of that character's a good model for this actiony guy, like maybe the dad. I like this kid thing.
So
and I thought of a title. It could be called like First Day Back, and you go back to school, and it's like, what did you do this summer?
I was gonna say like my vacation in Paris, or like my vacation in Fort Lauderdale, or whatever. You know, like it's
#vacay
summer vacation or whatever.
But then so how do we?
Okay, so sorry, we're going.
Yeah, how do we? Because I'm kind of glomming onto that.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited about that. So let's do that.
Okay, so
the film is about. I'm gonna write a little synopsis about a child retelling his summer vacation to his classmates for a class presentation. It begins, and again, chime in any time because I'm just on a flow right now. It begins with the bell ringing. I'm putting notes just so we can remember. But and the teacher calling him up. Calling the child, the student up.
Or like it's like a kid, like a non sequitur kid finishing a
wrapping
story,
up,
and then it's like, all right, now for Timmy Sterling.
Yeah, it's just Sterling. I don't know if I base it on him, but that's a great name for the dad, Roger Sterling. We should just rip that. That's a good fucking name.
Reggie Sterling.
Yeah, I'm changing it a little bit. Ronald Sterling.
Yeah.
Student up. He begins to tell his story. And within intercuts, we realize that his calm and slightly boring vacation was actually a great action-packed vacation. Sure, why not?
Yeah, and it plays into the trope too, where like you're like, you know, the greatest actor or comedian or whatever of all time, I'm not saying this is Conan O'Brien, but it just came into my mind, like Conan O'Brien's kids think he's a fucking idiot, you know?
Oh, like no matter how cool your job is or how cool you are, your kids. Yeah, because I'll be honest, when I first started thinking, I'm like, what if the kid's in on it? Like he's like, my life is cool, but I can't tell them, so I'm gonna sugarcoat it. But is it the opposite, where the kid is literally like, and he's just not even trying to be subtle, he's saying full out kind of what they did, but it's just boring to him. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, does he know? Is he in on it, or is he making it up?
I think the Cisse would be kind of boring to watch or like read, whereas the juxtaposition you were talking about earlier, where it's if you just took the audio out or didn't do the cutaways, it would sound just like a fucking super boring vacation. But then everything is a double entendre.
But no, I agree. But what I'm trying to say is, though, is the kid doing the double entendres on purpose? Is he like he's in on it that his vacation was cool, so he's like, yeah, we just went to the Eiffel Tower and hung out, and then it cuts to, oh, what the fuck? And it's like, the plutonium is mine, like it's some dark shit, and then it cuts back and he goes, nothing big. Or is he like, yeah, we went to the Eiffel Tower and we hung out, cuts to hanging, and it's like, oh,
the lineups were huge, and it's just his dad like decimating a lineup of dudes. I think he should hate what his dad does. He should be bored by it.
And I think that you might be that.
Because what is he gonna do? And like maybe there are things like the plutonium is by his foot. Too much like.
I was gonna say, isn't it too much that we're like the kid is just coincidentally dodging landmines, doing double entendres? Like he's just. Like it was boring, and he's just saying things that work out as opposed to him.
Okay, what if he's in on it, but in like you remember in Wet Hot American Summer when Paul Rudd picked up his she was like, he just swipes his meal on the floor, and Jeannie Garofalo's like, "Are you gonna clean that up, Andy?" And he's just like, I could, but I gotta. And she's like, "Clean it up now." And he's like, oh, and like just doing everything really slow and like being a fucking piece of shit because he's just. Averse to authority or whatever. Like, so he could be participating in this stuff.
It's
like, son, grab the plutonium, grab my hand or whatever. And he's just like, oh, Dad.
I thought you said we were gonna go to Disneyland today.
Yeah, it's just like that could.
I'm sold on both. I do like what you're saying too. Where, I don't know, because I also, So we don't want the kid to be cool. Like,
don't
sorry,
touch it while
I
you're
keep doing that.
talking. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm gonna fucking talk with discourse. So we don't like it. Like, do we not like the fact that he's fucking like the kid is Agent Cody Banks? Basically, he's like so in on it, and he helps his dad out on these missions. But like, he's Morty from Rick and Morty. But
We don't talk about that show right now.
it's too sensitive right now.
Agent Cody Banks.
Oh come on, you don't know that either.
I do. I just need an image.
Frankie Muniz.
Oh, I knew it. I want. Oh, fuck, funny. Yeah, I don't think I saw it. I think that was
The first man. I had the biggest crush on Hilary Duff. I was like jealous of Frankie Muniz when I was a kid. I'm like, you kissed Hilary Duff.
I played in a band called Come Clean for a while, a hardcore band, because the singer was obsessed
how
with
was it
Hilary
spelled?
Duff. Like, yeah, it wasn't spelled the way you want it to be spelled.
Sorry, she was.
We came dirty.
What did you say about Hilary Duff? She looked like her?
The Come Clean, I think, is a record of hers, and our singer was a huge fan. And I didn't think I clocked it till after the band died, but okay, I think that makes sense. It's just like, is there a satisfying way? Is there an arc to the kid's story? Like, how are we changed at the end? And
Well,
like maybe sorry, just
Yeah.
it kind of gets to be a bit wow at the end, but like if the kid's like, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. I had a great time with my dad, and then it cuts to his dad in the back of the classroom watching, and he's just like beat to shit. Or something,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I was gonna say, what if at the end of it, his dad? I was literally on the same page as you, but I was like, he comes into the classroom, being like, "Sorry, we gotta go," because like it's like a sequel to the mission.
Yeah.
You know?
Or like the kid's watch lights up, and it's like,
yeah.
we gotta go, and the kid's just like, sorry, and then he just like, sorry, I'll be right back, and then he leaves, and he like goes out of the classroom, and they watch him, and like a black helicopter like lands, and the kid just
in
gets
the background, and maybe they don't even notice. They're like, all right, well, that was weird. And the class continues, and then through the window in the background, like of the class, like they're all looking at the teacher, but in the background of the shot, there's a window, and then there's like outside, and a chopper comes in.
That's it. Yeah, that's
and
exactly it. Yeah. And the kid just gets into it,
and
it's
no
just
one
like,
notices except maybe one kid.
Yeah.
That's fucking great.
Because like,
it's very Spy Kids.
yeah, I haven't seen that.
What the fuck, dude? What was your childhood? What did you watch?
I mean, we're from different eras.
Oh, right. You watched
I was in.
How
like,
Can I Be Rude? I was trying to be funny. Like, you watched Casablanca when you were growing.
Yeah. Citizen Kane was on repeat.
Citizen Kane had just come out.
Just really light family comedies like Citizen Kane and Umberto D. No, I grew up on like fucking Hook and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Men in Black and fucking shit like that. Although I rewatched Hook recently, and
They're all. I'll be honest. This is
Okay.
a hot. It doesn't hit you, right, Hook?
no, it was really bad. I used to love it, love it. I'd be like, Hook is the best movie ever. I watched it this Christmas. I'm like, this is
So
not
bad.
good and very creepy. Like
The hot take for me is what's the Hook was Spielberg though, right?
Hook with Spielberg, who I don't think really likes it that much either.
That was like he did a lot of like amusement park ride movies back in the day though.
Fuck
But
yeah,
I
sell
was
them
gonna
toys.
I was gonna say right now was hot take. I think Men in Black's a bit overrated too.
Yeah, I could
Watching it again. I mean, back in the day, fucking amazing. But watching it, you're like,
I do often. I've thrown the Edgar scene into a lot of treatments lately. Like the scene where they go and interview the woman whose husband gets his skin stolen.
Oh yeah.
It's like he was like Edgar, but he wasn't Edgar. He was wearing an Edgar suit. That's definitely an action comedy, Men in Black.
Yeah, 100%.
I fucking love it, but yeah, like you go back,
yeah.
but I don't know who the actor is, but the dude who played that Edgar, like the bug wearing the skin,
he killed it.
That is
It's a great act.
physical performance
You know what?
comedy.
Maybe I haven't seen it in a while. I feel like now just thinking of scenes, I'm like, I think I would enjoy it if I watched it again.
Yeah, the sequels and stuff aren't.
The third one was
great,
so bad,
but-
man. I watched it in theaters. The third one, and I was like, what the hell? Cool idea, but damn.
Yeah.
Who
And
directed it?
maybe too at the end, it wasn't Zemeckis, was it?
Barry Sonfield. Oh, he does sound
oh.
familiar. What did he make? Barry Sonfield. I'm probably butchering it. The Sonfield? Sonnenfield.
Son.
I don't know. It's a Sonnenen. He made all the he made all the Men in Blacks. I think he made Wild Wild West, which was
Oh, he just enabled.
he
Will
doubled
Smith.
down. You what?
He enabled Will Smith to become the villain he eventually became.
It's
You know what's funny? There's a moment in Independence Day, which is more of an action movie with those release moments of levity, when Will Smith steals a helicopter.
I've never seen Independence Day.
Really?
Yeah. That's mine, yeah.
Man, that movie is good. It's really fucking good.
I've heard.
But Will Smith has to steal a helicopter sometime after the aliens have decimated everything, and there's this big dude trying to stop him, and he's like holding a gun, and he's like, "Get out of the chopper, sir!" And Will Smith's like, "Sorry, I'm taking it. Just tell him I hit you." And then he takes off, and like the guy's obviously too big to hit, and I'm like, that was premonitory. He was gonna hit someone.
Just tell him I slapped you.
Yeah.
And then he looks at the camera. You'll get this in 20 years.
Yeah.
He's like a fucking a time traveler.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so can I just pitch something?
No.
Please?
Okay.
No, you go.
No.
Were you doing a bit right now?
I was totally doing a bit.
Oh, dude, you kill me, bro. Your bits are like gravy.
Did you think I was real?
I thought you had something really in your mind.
Oh, no.
So I was like, I don't want to step over your.
No, I was just.
We are so Canadian.
I would never say no. I would
I'm
never
so
say
sorry.
no to you like that seriously, unless like you were doing something shitty, which you would.
Well, challenge accepted. Now I'm gonna find a way to get there. Okay, I'm just gonna throw shit as the opening and the style, and you tell me if this works. What if we play it again? Short film. So what if it starts with like the bell ringing, and again we can tweak all this shit. Bell ringing, and it's like this music playing like it's a Pixar scene, like. And it's like, all right, class. And next up, we have Timmy Detweiler or Timmy Sterling, and he walks up, and everyone like looking up, and it's like a shot of him in the front, and the camera dollies into him, and it's very like magical, and it's shot very like a Family Channel movie. This opening shot, and you go into him, and he goes, "My summer vacation with my dad," and then the credits say the exact same thing on the screen.
Yeah.
as a joke,
You
You
just
know?
huge fat
Yeah.
cut to black title card. Yeah.
And then which you just said, and then it cuts back, and he goes, "My summer went really great. My dad works overseas," and then it cuts to like again anything like dad having a bunch of passports
Just
or
like
whatever.
walking through an airport
Yeah.
security, and security's just waving him through,
Yeah,
and he's just
yeah.
like fucking doesn't even stop. Like,
And you know what we should do for a little character arc? Maybe it's like he's a single dad, or not single dad. Sorry, he's his parents are divorced, so he's like, this summer my mom let me go hang out with my dad or whatever, right? And then it's like cuts to we went to Paris, and then you have these jump cuts. So I don't know what the rest is, but I just like this energy of like it just starts with a bang, and then this kid just narrates the fucking story, and it just gets into my dad didn't like Paris much, and then like fighting and all these things happening and necks being broken, and then it's like back to like but I did get to see the Eiffel Tower, and then again cut to him hanging off the Eiffel Tower. I don't know why I keep seeing that, and then cuts back, and it's like something else, and then it cuts back, and it's just this. He just keeps the scenes keep getting crazier and crazier and crazier.
Yep.
And then, because the one thing I took away, which I don't know if you mind, is like the kid being bored on vacation, where the dad's fighting, and instead it's like he's there and he's like witnessing all this, and then but he's always like doesn't know what to do almost. And then in one of the scenes where he's like, and then my dad helped me, let me help him out, or whatever he says. I don't know what the dialogue is. And then it cuts to like the dad's being choked out, and he's like reaching for like a bottle, and the kid just kind of
rolls it over.
Very like it just hands it to him.
Yeah.
Hands the dad the bottle that he's like reaching for, and he goes, "Thank you," and then just smashes it in the guy, and then does a cool move.
You're a good kid.
Yeah.
And then sorry, continue.
No, and then it cuts. I don't know when this would happen, but a moment of like calmness where it's like, and it was good to get to know him, and then it cuts to them in like a coffee shop, and it's like the most opposite of the other scenes of them in Paris, where it's like just calm and there's drinking coffee, and he's like sips a coffee, and he goes and the dad sips a coffee, and the kid's maybe drinking like Coca-Cola or whatever, and he goes like, so like is mom still seeing that guy, you know? And then as he says that, and you think it's fine, a car just like, fucking rams into the restaurant.
Yeah,
a car just rams right into the restaurant, and he goes, and then it goes back into action. Yeah. But it's I
love that. That's exactly what I was picturing. The cars, there's going to be a fucking car flipping into that Paris cafe. And then it'd be funny too, like you do this, he's talking about this sort of the juxtaposition, and like maybe maybe we see that first kid, because I kind of like what you said about how to start it with just to get right to the fucking chorus. But at the very end, and it'd be like, yeah, and he stopped the international terrorist ring that was on the brink of another man-made pandemic. I didn't mean to say another man-made pandemic. But
hot takes.
That's not how I think. I don't know what's going on in the fucking world. What am I kidding? But he says something, and like, yeah, and then we stopped the international terrorist ring, and everyone's kind of like, huh. All right, next is beep, beep, beep. And he's like, sorry, I got to go. And then he leaves, and the helicopter thing
And
happens.
then as he leaves, the next kid goes up, and you hear the beginning of his.
Yeah.
So me and my mom went to, or my dad went to this, and or like, so my family just stayed in the city for the thing, and he's talking, and as he's talking, in the background of the window, like you see this like side shot of the
kind
whole
of just
class.
trails off. Yeah. Yeah.
And then in the background you see the helicopter come in, and you're seeing all this happen. But what if it doesn't trail off? Like the kid's just talking. So I don't know how to explain it because I know we can't show the visual right now. But imagine like a side profile of the class. So
Yep.
you see the whole class looking
the
forward,
row windows.
and the kid, and there's big windows. So you're seeing the windows and the kids in class, and beyond the windows, in like the fucking field of the school, a chopper lands, but no one looks because the kid's still talking.
Yeah.
He's like, and then the second kid or the new kid who's like telling his story, where he's like, and then we went to Vancouver and we did this, and then in the background, like a guy comes out of the chopper and he's like, where he has a gun in his, he has like a AK, and he's like, no. He's like telling him to get in, and the kid jumps into the helicopter and puts on a vest and everything, and then it flies off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. That's super sick.
And you know what I love about this? And even with the coffee scene with the car crashing, I'm like, fuck yeah, we're not making this. I don't have to
We
worry
can do
about the line
whatever.
producing of this right now.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I think this would make a great short, and you put some money into this, like $100,000 or more, whatever, into the short film, and you can get this done.
Oh, with the amount, we got to go to Paris. That's a mill. That's a cool mill.
Oh, true. You gotta. Yeah, they do. There are $1 million short films.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
And they do well.
I've
Those
made
are the
one.
big ones. Yeah. You made $1 million short film?
No.
Oh. You got me again. We should do a little counter the amount of times you get me. Gullible Adeel.
The Blue Sky drinking game.
Every time a deal falls for it.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's make that movie. Write that movie.
Okay, I'm gonna put all the notes I just said. So, happy beginning.
The only reason I think that maybe a kid at the beginning, that there's merit in having a kid kind of finish his thing, like, is there a way to kind of underscore, like, he's saying something that's completely not true. Me and my dad, we went to Disney World and we saw dinosaurs, but they were real dinosaurs. They're actually real. They grew dinosaurs and they were real, and they weren't just amusement park rides. And it's like, okay, next up we've got Timmy.
Oh,
and then the kid starts on this thing, and we went to Paris to actually, no, I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll be honest. I find that really funny what you just said, where it's like it ends with literally someone who had a made up story, and then you go to this kid and it's a real story, but he's like, but I feel like that's too much.
But if to do that effectively, the kid would have to be like, yeah, me and my dad took down an international terrorist ring at the beginning, but we want it to be innocuous and play against what he's saying with the visuals. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, and we'll get there when we write the actual dialogue, but the ending, I'm still on the fence if he says it or if he stays subtle, because that's double in your face, where he says that line and then we see the helicopter. Is it funnier if he, says like, this is what happened, and no one believes, or this is what happened, we had a fun trip in Paris, like nothing about the terrorists.
Yeah, but
and then you see the chopper.
But like the impact of the chopper coming in, I think, lies with the other characters witnessing it. So like, oh, it sounded great until you lied about the ending.
But then they don't witness it, I said.
Oh, they don't witness
I mean, that's what my pitch is, that it's funny if they're like in class watching a new kid talk, and in the background, as this new kid, the second after our main character sits down or says, oh, I have to leave the classroom, and the second kid starts, I just find it so funny that no one notices, because now I'm actually going to go backwards, where maybe he does say like, we destroyed an international ring of whatever, right? Drug dealers. And then they're all like rolling their eyes. And then even as an audience member, because they roll their eyes, you're like, maybe he was making it up. And then you kind of say, oh, this is kind of a funny film.
Right.
And then when he leaves the classroom and then you see the chopper come in, it's more just for the audience.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say,
like.
It's yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Again, when we get to that scene, we'll figure it out.
Okay, cool. And now, my summer vacation in Paris. Exterior, school, day. An aerial shot of a standard issue public school. We hear a bell ringing to signal the beginning of a class. Interior, classroom, continuous. A classroom full of grade 8 students sit with varying degrees of interest, all looking forward at the teacher, Mrs. Clemens. She sighs and speaks in her usual disengaged voice. All right, class. Next up is... She checks the class list. Timmy Sterling. Tepid applause as Timmy saunters toward the front of the class. A bully sticks his foot out and trips Timmy. He falls. Without missing a beat, Timmy jumps to his feet, unfettered with unexpected enthusiasm.
My summer vacation in Paris.
Cut to black. Title card. My Summer Vacation in Paris. Interior, classroom. Timmy continues his presentation.
As you know, my parents don't live together anymore because my mom thinks my dad has rage issues.
There's an awkward pause.
But this summer, she let me travel with him on his work trip to Paris, and we got to sit in first class.
We hear a classic airplane ding. Whip pan 2. Interior airplane, first class cabin. We see the kid sitting in his seat as Dad, 40s, fit and extremely handsome in a perfectly tailored suit, is led toward the washroom by a flight attendant, female, 30s.
And Dad made friends with a pretty flight lady who gave him a tour of the cockpit while I hung out and watched Turner and Hooch and drank the best orange juice I ever had.
Cut 2, interior airplane washroom. Moments later, Dad and the flight attendant are making out furiously. Dad lifts her onto the sink counter and swipes the hair away from her face, revealing a neck tattoo. Dad rolls his eyes.
You've got to be kidding.
Wham! The flight attendant headbutts him, and he falls back into the wall. She lunges at him with a fist. He regains his balance and blocks her arm, and while still holding it, slams her into the mirror. Abruptly cut 2, interior first class cabin. Timmy watches Turner and Hooch sipping on OJ. Dad casually returns to his seat, dabbing some almost imperceptible blood from his nose. He grabs an earbud from his son and joins him in watching the movie. Cut 2, exterior, the Louvre, later.
Then when we got to Paris, Dad took my pictures at the Louvre.
Dad takes a picture of Timmy. Close on the phone, we see it is actually a remote hacking device, and an innocuous door opens at the Louvre.
And then we entered through the VIP entrance. Does anyone know what VIP means?
Cut 2, interior classroom. The entire room stares at him for a disinterested beat.
Very important person.
Whip pan 2, interior secret Louvre base. Timmy and Dad sit at a table across from the Quartermaster, 70s, who presents Dad with some interesting gadgets.
My dad must have forgot his luggage because then a kooky old man gave him a new suit, pen, and fancy watch. And then we went to a nice little cafe.
Cut 2, interior Paris cafe later. Dad and Timmy sit at a bar of a quaint cafe, sipping espressos. For a moment, we see a vulnerable side of Dad. He quietly clears his throat.
So, is your mom still seeing, Sanjay?
A loud crash as a black SUV careens through the patio and into the cafe. Dad jumps to his feet and tosses his new blazer over Timmy's head.
Stay here.
2 henchmen, 30s, stumble out of the SUV and argue like Guy Ritchie characters.
I said to the cafe, not through it, bloke.
Dad charges the armed henchmen. They chuckle at him.
Who's this mate on about? Doesn't even have a gun. Running at us like a gazelle. He's got no chance. Get him, boys.
More henchmen pour out of the SUV and ascend on Dad. Dad twists the band on his new wristwatch. A small blue electrical force field envelops his hand. They open fire on Dad and Timmy. Dad reflects the bullets with his force field gadget. We see Timmy as the bullets bounce off the blazer. Dad deftly takes out these new cronies, then he jumps in the air and one punches Henchman 2, taking him to the ground. Close on Henchman 2, his head explodes like a watermelon. Henchman 1 thinks for a moment, drops his gun, and takes off. Close on Timmy, peeking out from the blazer. He saw everything. Cut 2, interior classroom. We see the looks on all the kids' faces as they digest everything Timmy just said. The camera pans 180 degrees to the front of the class. Timmy stands a few feet away from the teacher's desk. Timmy, you just can't make up.
And then we hung out at the Eiffel Tower.
Whip pan 2, exterior Eiffel Tower night. Our villain, Brainstorm, holds Dad at the throat and dangles him over the ledge with his bionic arm.
You thought you foiled my plan, but I cannot be stopped.
We notice Timmy standing just a few feet away, watching. He's scared. Dad gestures with his eyes to the jacket pocket, which Timmy is still wearing.
With a click of this button, I will use technology to spread the virus. First in Paris, then the world. Timmy, now.
Brainstorm turns to see who the dad is talking to. He laughs. Timmy pulls out the pen.
Oh, is little boy going to write me a letter?
Dad struggles to communicate with Timmy.
Blow it.
Timmy blows on the pen. A dart flies out and hits Brainstorm in his eye.
Oh.
Dad quickly takes advantage and uses Brainstorm's arm to swing over to safety. Brainstorm stumbles and falls off the ledge. Cut 2, interior classroom. That's enough, Timmy. The assignment was to tell us about your summer vacation, not some made-up story.
But
Sit down. The class laughs as Timmy walks back to his seat. Before he sits down, we hear a beep, and he glances at the wristwatch his dad was wearing. He raises his hand.
May I go to the washroom?
Mrs. Clemens rolls her eyes. Fine. Up next, we have Armand. Timmy takes his leave. Tepid applause as Armand steps in front of the class and begins his own presentation.
This summer, I saw my dog and neighbor's dog wrestling, and now we have 6 dogs.
Through the massive windows, we see a chopper land on the school's front lawn. Dad opens the door and he hops out. He has an assault rifle around his neck.
And the littlest puppy can talk to me with her mind?
True stories only, Armand. Jeez, what is with this class today? Outside, Dad gestures for Timmy to get into the chopper, and they both fly off. The class is oblivious. Fin.
In conclusion,
So there you have it, my summer vacation in Paris. And knowing that as writers we're supposed to pretend to hate our own work, but how do you feel?
I'm surprised that I didn't mind it.
Yeah, me too. It's funny.
Yeah, what's funny?
I think Timmy's a funny character. He's like, he comes off as this oblivious sort of outcast and is completely telling the truth and no one believes him. And I really like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You know what's interesting? I was just thinking, like, I was trying to figure out like how we got to this script, because that's like also insane on its own. Like, it took us like a minute to get to this idea. We were, I think, talking about so many other options before. But I remember we talked about Mr. and Mrs. Smith for a moment, where like that action scene could be like the whole short needs to be like a moment or whatever. But we really like this idea that we've seen in action films. It was action comedy genre, right?
It was action comedy,
in action comedy genres where like it's like one person's a spy or like an assassin, but the other person doesn't know, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith or True Romance or True Lies. I mean, and other films like Spy Kids we talked about. And I don't think we thought of this because like when I remember being like, oh, what if it's like this? It's a telltale, like it's a kid or someone telling a story. But I wasn't going for like, oh, the dad is like a secret spy. But I kind of love that we ended up in that trope. You know what I mean? Like that we actually hit that trope pretty well, where it's like this kid's dad is like a super famous spy or like assassin.
Yeah, and in turn subverted that trope by like him just being completely open with his son. Like at the end, it's just like his son's taking part of it and stuff like that. And I guess
but that is the trope though.
That is the trope. Yeah.
Like at the end, like, you know, like you're like spy, you know what I'm thinking of is Spy Kids. Like
right. He's he didn't. I might cut that part out because it made me just sound really stupid.
Nobody makes me look bad.
No, but you're totally right. Like it starts off with that sort of pseudo mystery and pays off at the end.
One thing you liked and one thing you didn't like about Summer Vacation in Paris?
One thing I liked was the little touch at the beginning. Like I remember really trying to be like, we need to like do a trope at the beginning, and we added the like helicopter shot just to like establish a sort of actiony vibe. But then having just that little touch of the bully sticking his foot out, Timmy falling, but then kind of getting back up. So it's like we've just sort of introduced what this character is about to go through, because no one's going to believe him, but he's like just perky and up right away.
Yeah.
So I really, really like that.
We also just really quick. I do like that we kind of established like a underdog character right away.
100%.
Like that was kind of fun, because then now in those action comedies you love an underdog.
For sure.
Sorry, what didn't you like?
In that whole bully sticks his foot out, he gets up perfectly, just does all that. It sets the trope, it sets up the expectations of the character.
Yeah.
It does all those nice little things. So I really liked it. And I mean, it's hard to say what I didn't like, because it's really fun. It's just like, I think the constraint of our 5 to 6 or 3 to 5 page thing, and we're actually at just crested 7 pages for this one. There wasn't a lot of time for like banter. Like I would have loved to see the henchman talk for 10 minutes, you know, and just like fucking you and I just like bullshitting Guy Ritchie voices for that long. Like that would have been really fun.
What's this geezer on about then?
Yeah, Boris the Bullet Dodger.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean the leg, but I do think it's a double-edged sword. No, that's not the right word at all. It's a bittersweet thing. I don't know.
Blessing and a curse.
Thank you. There. Oh my gosh. I like writing. I don't know words. It's a blessing and a curse, because I really do think that if we had like as many pages as we wanted to write, we might even make this story kind of boring. Maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
it could get convoluted.
It pushed us to kind of be like, okay, every beat has to matter. I like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I agree though. So on the same vein though, like in the same vein, sorry, you know how you said if we had more time, the banter. One thing I was thinking is even if we had more foreshadowing a little bit, because I know you really wanted that too in the beginning. That's why we added the aerial shot and all that, because it was like, let's pepper it in. But even the blow dart pen, for example, I wish there was a scene of the quartermaster when he's showing it, it somehow comes up, like you have to blow in it, or you know, like we kind of foreshadowed that Timmy will have to do it later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somehow.
Or it would have been cool to do like we see the quartermaster demonstrating, and before the dart comes out, so you're not fully revealing what it does, you cut back to the class and someone hits him with a spitball. You know?
Yeah. Oh,
like that would have been cool,
that's
right?
Great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Damn.
That's a great scene. We should talk. Yeah, like literally the quartermaster's like, and this pen over here, and he picks it up, and as he's about to do it, cut to classroom and someone hits him with a spitball.
Just continue the action.
You think the audience hopefully feels like, oh, we just cut the scene because bully kind of interrupted him, and then later in the film he gets to freaking do the blow. Oh, that's a great scene.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good I was gonna be simpler, and yours is way better. I was just gonna be like, oh, what if like he picked it up and then the dad's like a pen, and then the quartermaster's like, oh, it's more than a pen, and then we just cut that scene. So it's like, what is it gonna do? But the spitball is freaking genius. I love that.
Yeah, and if we were gonna rewrite it, that we'd put that in. But
yeah, and that's what the point of first.
we're not touching that shit.
Yeah, that's the point. We can't touch these scripts anymore. But you know that you're literally demonstrating why first drafts are so important, and it's just important to write, is because you wouldn't even think of that genius idea if we didn't write a vomit pass. You know what I mean? Like you came up with this brilliant idea because we also have this like foundation, and now you can add like that idea alone is great, but imagine how many more ideas like we can come up with by just like going over it and cleaning it up. And yeah, so that's why it's like get that first draft out. Cause
what was the adjective you used to describe my idea?
Genius, I think.
Thank you.
The Blue Sky Podcast is produced by Adeel and Jono Hunter, edited by Justin Stevenson, and this voiceover recorded by Kevin Brown. If you have an idea for a prompt, email us at theblueskypodcast@gmail.com or DM us at theblueskypodcast on Instagram.